So cool, yeah. Nate, what are you working on at the moment?
So I'm working on the animation for the game. We're working on getting pit crews fully developed, and that involves a lot of moving parts. So I'm going in and making sure that each moving part can dovetail smoothly into the next one, so that when you pull in for a pit stop, it looks like the real thing, as opposed to a bunch of jumbled pieces that suddenly stop and then go and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's so cool, but why aren't you working on the time model? Nothing?
The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Welcome tonight to the famous short track of Martinsville Speedway. We'll go half-mile racing for 200 laps in just a moment as we welcome you into the booth tonight for LSRTV's coverage of the Upstate Racing League Late Model Nationals. In the booth myself tonight, Austin Coop, Gabe Wood, Chris Murdoch, and of course Cisco Scaramuzza in the booth. Or in the production trailer, actually. He's down there, not up in the booth with us, but he'll be giving the picture, as always, for tonight's Late Model Nationals. This is actually day 2. They had day 1 on Tuesday, and we're going to be ringing the second half of it, and a lot more racing is going to be happening today. 200 laps is going to be happening tonight, and as I enter Gabe here, it's going to be pretty interesting what's going to happen tonight. There's actually going to be some payouts, and with a lengthy race, we're going to have a lot on the line for these guys.
Yeah, that there is, Coop. I'm looking through the payouts. I mean, these guys have a lot on the line. You have the potential to win. It looks like about $55. There's a $5 award for the pole award, so who can get it in pole qualifying in just a few moments. The hard charger bonus is also $5, and fastest lap, $5. $45 to the winner, a bonus if Kyle Barnes, I guess, is that, or KB?
Yeah, Kyle Barnes.
Yes. All right. I'm bad at initials. $45 to the winner, a bonus if Kyle Barnes can win. $25 to second, $20 to third, $15 to fourth, and $10 to fifth. But it's a potential for $55, Coop. We were talking about this earlier. I mean, if you go from last to first, there's a pretty good chance that you set the fastest lap bonus. So huge payout in the works tonight.
Yeah, so far we've got 16 drivers set up to race tonight, which is a really good amount to when you talk about this short track, and the amount of work that these guys are going to have to do to make it to the 200 lap mark. You know, we've seen a lot of Martinsville races over the years. You know, old track, old surface, and just classic action that you'll see at a track like this. And I would say that you know, it's going to be a lot of endurance for these guys to get what they can each and every lap, but also to know that this is also going to be a long race. 200 laps is nothing to shy about, so it's going to be around 100 miles, a little bit over, of course, since Martinsville's not a perfect half-mile track. So we'll send it over to Chris. Chris, what are your expectations tonight?
You know, I just think everybody's going to be taking it easy for these first few laps. There's 16 drivers, as Gabe mentioned, so you have a time to, you know, make up ground if you're starting in the back, and time to work through the field. It's 200 laps, and it may not seem like a lot at Martinsville because it's such a short track, but when you actually break it down, that's a lot of laps, a lot of corners. You got to stay consistent, especially at a track like Martinsville where it's short and there's really no room for error, because if you make a mistake, you're going to be falling back like a rock. So consistency is going to be key here tonight, Coop.
Right, you are, and when we keep going and we kept talking about this Upstate Racing League, it's been a while since we've talked about them, but or we've seen them really. But the thing that I like the most is that we actually had them with the Cars Esport Tour for late model race at Concord not too long ago, and it was really good to see them during their break. They had a good get together. It was for fun, non-points. It looks like we'll also be able to see Tanner Cook here take some qualifying laps as well here as he's getting his car on the back straightaway, but we'll be able to really see these guys back in action, and they'll also be going full time for their season on October 12th, so that'll be fun to watch.
Going to be fun to watch indeed. Let's look on board, at least on the racetrack, with the number 96 of Tanner Cook as he goes into turn number 1 on his first lap down the back straightaway. A notoriously tight setup here, Coop, so that's going to be one thing to look out for, is guys trying to make a pass, trying to get that car to turn, but also try not to hook it there on the curb. Here it comes off of turn number 4, hits the wall, but it looks like he will get another shot at it because he stopped right before the start-finish line, so he will have a chance to run a lap here in qualifying. Did see Kyle Barnes on the racetrack earlier, and he actually went to the top of the board with a 20.274, the fastest lap time by almost half a second that we've seen all day.
It really doesn't surprise me that Kyle's on top of the game. Typically every time he goes into a racetrack, he has the mindset of winning, and I think a lot of these drivers do. But with the fact that he won that last race, with leading every single lap, nonetheless, that's going to be. I think it's going to be difficult to beat him, and there is that payout if he can win the race of I think another $50. I'd have to double check on that, but yeah. I think he'd get a total of at least $95 or so. So, that's really going to be an exciting thing to watch and think of. So, Tanner Cook does get his lap in. He'll get a 3:14, so he's going to be right in between Barnes and Watson as they have about a minute left, and it looks like just about everyone has finished their qualifying laps. And we want to mention before it goes, and Chris, these guys only have 22 gallons of fuel. They're not going to make it that entire distance, and they're only going to have 2 jacks. They're only going to be able to jack up the car twice for a total of 4 tires, I would presume. And iRacing actually forces you to take 2 tires at a time, which is, I think that's what it should have been the whole time. But definitely they have the option of taking 2 jacks now.
Yeah, and they're also going to have to worry about that tire wear along with the fuel because they are dealing with a tight setup out here. And drivers have been vocal about it. They've been pushing up in practice and having to really, really struggle with that setup. So watch the tires here. As you mentioned, the 2 jacks, but as you mentioned, the fuel of 22 gallons. They're going to have to do a lot of saving. Try to get that strategy if it goes green. But if there's a little bit of yellows, they can manage to save just a little bit and get as much as they need to get to the end of this thing, I think.
Qualifying is just about wrapped up. Kyle Barnes, he will secure that pole. Go ahead and give him $5 right now because there is a pole award right now. So give that to him. He'll get that and put that in the back pocket, knowing going forward he won't have to worry about it if he gets a little bit less than first. Of course, he's going to definitely want it because it's a big drop from an extra $50 down to $25. So we'll go through the starting grid here. Kyle Barnes, of course, gets that first position in the number 15 car, and then you'll have Tanner Cook. He'll start to his outside. Starting in the 3rd position will be Jake Watson in 3rd. Sean Cool will start in 3rd position, and then you've got AJ Hamill starting 5th. He's in the 18.
Starting in the 6th position is going to be the Scandinavian Nicholas Rasmussen. In the number 71 machine will roll off in the 6th spot. 7th is going to be James McIntyre Jr. in the number 06 machine. In 7th, Jacob Porter. In 8th, Justin McDuff. In 9th, and Stefan Marinak in the number 25 machine will round out your top 10.
Just behind him on that inside row, that's Al Smith Jr. in the 11th place. Mike Holtzclaw is going to be 12th. 13th, Danny Dubuque. Jay Dubuque is going to be on his outside in 14th. 15th goes the O2 of Trevin Valderrama. And the last driver on the track that did not take a time in 16th, that's Matthew Hoft.
That'll complete your 16-car grid brought to you by LSRTV. And as they are still waiting to go, we do remind you that coverage of tonight's Upstate Racing League Late Model Nationals is brought to you by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time on the sim, behind the wheel, or on the pit box, or from the spotter stand, JRT is the go-to software for iRacing timing and scoring analytics. Get yourself a basic download or get the pro version today at joel-rail-timing.com. Very, very shortly, these guys will get ready to go and do their couple warm-ups. While they do that, we'll tell you a little bit about this paperclip called Martinsville Speedway. It is just about a half a mile long. As you know, of course, your normal 4 turns at these ovals, and it does have a little bit of banking in those turns, but none in the straightaways, as we see at a lot of the NASCAR tracks, which this one definitely is. But we're going to be short track racing with these late models today.
Yeah, another thing about the Martinsville Speedway, oldest surface on the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series schedule, opened in 1947, and it has not been repaved. Or excuse me, it has been repaved, but it has not been repaved recently. So one tough surface, and as you can see, it's a completely different asphalt surface there on the top lane. Don't expect anybody to make passes up there, but outside passes there on the concrete are definitely possible, Coop. So that's going to be one thing to look out for as they're coming to the one to go.
With 200 laps and with a lot of practice with qualifying, I can assure you that top line will at least come in a little bit, and we'll see those guys try and use it to their advantage as they get forward. We want to say thank you for stopping by tonight on the home of sim racing with LSRTV, as we'll get the Late Model Nationals kicked off on this Thursday evening. Kyle Barnes, he has the pole, and he will launch these guys into a 200-lap feature when who will win it at the end of the day. Green flag is in the air, and it looks like Tanner Cook will beat Kyle Barnes to the line there. Don't know how the rules are set up for this one, but I'm pretty sure that he'll have to give the position back to Kyle, which he does, and the 4 of Jake Watson will be right there.
Yeah, Watson on the inside of the 96 of Tanner Cook, trying to get everything he can, try to stay on that inside of the 96 machine, as he now surrenders the position of the 15 of Kyle Barnes. Barnes back in the lead after Cook got a good jump like Coop mentioned there, Gabe, and now Jake Watson trying to set up the 96 going into 3.
Seeing that these guys are already starting to single file down, knowing that the outside is so difficult to do anything with in the opening laps of a race. The track is cool, and so are the tires. Once those air pressures start getting up, once the track starts getting warmer, then they'll start being able to do a little bit more with it. And really, realistically, it is a long race. You know, these guys really will need to start just figuring out, you know, how they're going to race this race. And it looks like we got the 18 a little bit loose off the corner. That's going to be AJ Hamill. He's going to go from 5th to 7th and maybe 8th if he can't keep Stefan Marinak behind him. Stefan Marinak's also been a character we've known with the Upstate Racing League to be particularly fast in the end of a race, kind of like the closer Kevin Harvick in the NASCAR series. So we'll just have to keep an eye on those guys as they continue to be single file. No battles side by side on the track, but these guys are starting to spread.
Marinak in that DMC DeLorean logoed car. Very creative. They're on the Back to the Future number 25 machine, but he tried working that outside lane. It looks like he's trying to work it again, but going back to that restart, I would have actually sided with Tanner Cook there, because when the green flag came out, I don't know if these drivers were instructed to go on the green flag, but Barnes was just caught sleeping. A very uncharacteristic mistake from that Exxon number 15 machine. I would have actually given a position under the 96 if he could have held on to it.
Rulebooks do state that the leader must get to the start-finish line, but I think you make a very valid point that the green flag is out and the leader's not going. Someone's got to go, because you're just going to get ran over, and I think Tanner Cook knows that on the inside his racer instincts are going to put him in a position to try and get it, you know, if he's going to. But nonetheless, it was still on the outside. It's still extremely very, very difficult. Very difficult to get that position in the end. So as they start to spread out, I mean, there's a pretty big difference between those top 4 and Nicholas Rasmussen, who is the Upstate Racing League's champion in these late models from last season, and he's sitting in a very solid 5th place right now. Just, I think, knowing the way he races, probably just biding his time. But he's going to get a bump from behind from Jacob Porter, and knowing Porter, I've raced with him before. That's only the first of many that's going to come for that guy.
Yeah, Porter getting agitated early. We're only on lap 9 here, Coop, trying to get through turns 1 and 2. Rasmussen able to get just a tiny bit of gap as Porter not able to get the run off. So we move forward here just in front of them. We look at Jake Watson and Tanner Cook, who have been, on each other's tails since the drop of the green flag, as Kyle Barnes was able to kind of pull away ever since the start, since about lap 4, guys. So we're going to be looking at these two little packs, and in between them, that's Sean Cool in that 24 machine. He's just riding around minding his own business, minding his own P's and Q's, and trying to get through this 200 lap race.
Yeah, Sean Cole's in a really good position because those guys in front of him, Watson and Cook, they are actually pretty close together. I mean, if either of them are going to make a mistake, they could really potentially get in a bad position. And Watson is right there on Tanner Cook's back bumper. I mean, it's a possibility that Watson wants to get that position pretty quick, but it is only lap 12. I mean, they're not even 10% of the way there yet. But looks like Watson has a little bit of a better exit on those corners. And, you've got to imagine that it is early, but not passing somebody right now might be the best thing for your car, for your tires, and just kind of for the attitude of the race, because if you start getting racy, you're going to lose track of what's important, and that's getting the lead and trying to win the race in the end of the day. And Barnes could get out of sight if they start to really fight. So that right now is under control, and then Porter's falling off a little bit from Nicholas Rasmussen in that battle for the top 5, and Rasmussen's taking a really different approach to his corner. He's going really wide, and I've got to say that's definitely because of those tires.
Watching Rasmussen and these other guys go around the racetrack, I'm looking at the attitude of the car, and these guys are going to beat those right side tires off. Because if you look at the soft suspension, he goes diving into turn number 3. The car sets down easy, but as soon as he gets back to the gas, that nose and left side start lifting up. So very soft suspension, a lot of body roll on these late models, at least with this setup. So these guys are going to abuse the heck out of those right side tires.
Yeah, and in the practice session, we talked to some of the drivers saying that the setup they have been provided tonight is pretty tight, and that over the run, and you could only assume that it's going to get tighter with the conditions getting hotter over the race, and the tires getting hotter. You're going to slide a little bit more and be tighter over the course of the race. So I would say that Nicholas Rasmussen, he's the champion. He's the one guy that you would say if he's going to do something different than everybody else, there's definitely a reason. Sean Cool is somebody I'm watching. He's doing that a little bit now. He's getting some really good exits right now. His entrances are very open, but his exits are really cut down and crisp, I would say. So that's watch those two guys, Cool and Rasmussen, as the two guys in front of him are still doing battle behind Barnes.
Yeah, they're still trying to figure out who's going to get that position. Jake Watson can kind of get the run on Cook out of the corner, but Cook is able to keep him at bay going into these corners. So they're kind of just going back and forth at the moment. Nobody really having a clear-cut advantage, but it's kind of allowing Kyle Barnes to drive away a little bit, Coop, because Cook's going to have to try to play defensive to keep Jake Watson behind him, and Watson's trying to push hard just so he can get by that 96 machine. So it's a lot of back and forth battle, but if we look, just behind them and Sean Cool, Nicholas Rasmussen, Jacob Porter, and now Stefan Marinak joining that little group right now. As Stefan Marinak is getting faster, guys. You mentioned it, Coop. He's fast around these tracks, and he's proving it right now as he's getting to the back bumper of that 3 machine.
Yeah, there's excitement there. There's even excitement at the very back of the pack where Valderrama and the number 121 of Master Hoeft, they're going side by side for that final position. So it doesn't matter where you are on the track. You're going to do battle. And those guys actually had gotten in some really big contact earlier. So that was really fun to see just off camera.
Oh, there they
for
go!
A moment. Oh, no! For last place.
Battle for last place turns deadly on the back straightaway. Looks like the 0-2 was trying hard. I saw him lock up the brakes in one, just trying to get that car wound up on the outside lane, trying to defend that position for 15th, and then came down off the wall and just put the 121 into the fence, taking both of these drivers out on the back straightaway.
And that was actually getting close to the leaders and where they were, that was definitely not what you wanted to happen going for the going for you know, a little bit of real estate that I think most drivers would say isn't a big deal, but to them, you know, it is. Every position matters, and I think that's something that you can never tell a driver not to drive as hard as they can for, even if it is, you know, 16th or 15th place at the end of it. So they're going to be multiple laps down, I'd assume, after much damage. I mean, I think one of them had a blown engine. I think that was Matthew at the end of that one. So might have 2 less cars at the end of this one. This does start to put in the conversation starting of when do you get tires.
And I don't think you get tires this stop. It's 23 laps, and while that looks a lot on paper, it's not at Martinsville. And there wasn't a lot of side-by-side racing going on. There was just a lot of, you know, bumper-to-bumper traffic there, Coop. This is where you get to the point of saving fuel, you know, doing everything you can, keeping it at low RPM, saving that fuel, and making sure you can get towards the end just in case you don't take tires. This is also good for Tanner Cook, Joe Watson, and company to get regrouped back up with Kyle Barnes, who was ultimately driving away at the start, so they'll have another shot at that 15 machine, see if they can get up there and battle with him.
Well, that is the story about up front. Going back to those 2 that were just involved in wreck, well, it looks like the O2's motor has also expired, so both those drivers are going to be presumably done for the night. Still a long race, and iRacing does provide them to have unlimited engines. It just takes about 30 minutes for them to, for some reason, get it installed. But they will be able to go back out there if they do wish to continue to race. But it is all the action on track. And you did talk about fuel there, Chris, and I really like that you mentioned that, because I'm really surprised that some of these guys don't come down for fuel. Those guys at the very back, like Al Smith, Jay Dubuque, James McIntyre Jr., who are the last 3 cars out there now, 12th, 13th, and 14th. I'm surprised they don't come down, because of the fact that they would be in no harm to come down and get just more fuel. Maybe they like the handling of the car when there's less fuel in it, or something like that. But I'm kind of surprised.
Well, if you know, you're going to have lower fuel that actually hikes that rear spoiler up in the air, not by much, but just a little bit, gives you a little bit more downforce. And downforce really not worth a lot here, but it may give you a little bit extra coming off the corner, a little bit more grip coming off the exit of these corners. And that's really what we've seen as being the determining factor if you can make the pass, especially on the outside lane.
And that's what Kyle Barnes will just do. He'll start on the outside line, and he'll give Tanner Cook the inside. We'll see how that works out for them. It didn't work out too good for Barnes last time, but the green flag comes out, and Kyle Barnes, he will get a very good jump on Tanner Cook. Good thing for Tanner Cook is it wasn't too much that he had a challenge on the outside. Sean Cool, he's still on the outside with Jake Watson to his inside, and oh, they get in contact. They're going to somehow, wrecking behind him. That's Porter.
Yeah, Porter trying to stay off of them as they were still fighting it through the wall. He wanted to get down and try to avoid Sean Cool, and he came down and turned himself right on the nose of that 25 of Stefan Marinac. So just unfortunate trying to avoid a wreck and get caught up in a wreck of your own.
You know, typically for the 3 car, and I do not mean this in any harm, but I would say if the 3 car was going to be wrecking this early, I would expect him to be the one giving it, but just in a really bad position with the 25 right there. He went down to avoid it, and the 25 did not see the wreck before he did, and he just got spun out, and very, very, very unfortunate for the 3 car.
And looking at it, he actually would have missed that wreck, but there's no way he would have known that. The 3 of Jacob Porter would have known that. But if he had just stayed straight, I think these guys would have collected it. But that 24 and the 4 car of Cook, I believe it was Cook, but the 4 machine, Jake Watson, excuse me. And to be wrecking, you know, sideways down the back straightaway, up into the wall, and to maintain 3rd. It's a heck of a piece of driving from that 4 machine, bouncing it off the back straightaway wall, but he's able to maintain it, that little contact with the 24 machine, and we'll keep going.
Funny thing is that the 4 of Jake Watson, it does have a little bit of right rear damage, but you know, when you're going short track racing, you can get a little dirty, you can get a little bumpy, and really you don't need aerodynamics at a track that you barely get above 100 miles an hour. So really looking forward to seeing if that really hurts the handling of the 4. I mean, it was a wild ride for the 4, that's for sure. And you saw it on the replay of you know, Porter getting turned, but also just the fact that they were able to keep it going. And Rasmussen, I do believe, did get that position from him. So, and he has no damage on his car, so he's in a really good position. He's going to be starting behind the leader if he chooses the outside again, which I think he might. So, knowing that, Rasmussen's once again in a great position.
Yeah, and talking about that lead position, talking about Kyle Barnes and him having that lane choice, when he started on the inside, he didn't get off to a great start, and it allowed Tanner Cook to beat him to the line. So he changed it up and, you know, started on the outside, and he shot off like a rocket, and then that time Tanner Cook didn't get a good start. So I think we're going to see Kyle Barnes probably take that outside again, which we are going to see him shade that outside lane. So like you mentioned, Rasmussen, that 71 machine, going to have an excellent opportunity to get maybe a position on Watson and even Cook going down into turn 1.
Tanner Cook will once again get the inside, but the control car will be that outside line of Kyle Barnes, as we noted last time. And I think it's going to be business as usual for those guys up front, and I'm sure they're going to be wanting a long green flag run. Just kind of a little bit of one of those racing deals is what I would at least put that to be. So they're going to be going green flag racing here just shortly. They're on lap 32, coming to lap 33, just a little bit over the 1/8 mark of this race. 200 laps total, and Kyle Barnes will start them for the next restart here. A very, very good restart for that number 15, and he's going to get about 2.5 car lengths over the 96 here going into turn number 2.
Clear by the time he gets to turn number 2. The number 96 machine of Tanner Cook, nothing doing, and it looks like the 71 machine of Nicholas Rasmussen, he's actually going to move into that 3rd spot. A little bit of a bump from Stefan Marinak at the 25. Now goes the 24 machine of Sean Cool. Restarted 6th, now up to 4th, fighting with the number 71 machine.
I've always thought of the 71 to be a very gracious driver, but on this restart, he, I think, has just let them go by a little too easy. The 25 right there, Stefan Marinak, absolutely just kind of put the nose in there and, you know, just had it. Just started pulling away, and then now the 71 has lost, I think, 2 positions from that restart. And he'll just slide it back down and be out on the bottom side. And you've got to wonder if the 71, he's got that long run speed. We've seen that. And I wonder if the short run speed, it just isn't there, or just doesn't want it to be there. It's you know, you can never tell with that. But the battle for second right now is starting to heat up. You got the number 4 on the inside of Tanner Cook, but he decides to back off just a little bit right there. And so going out of turn number 2, that battle is starting to get really crazy, despite the damage on the 4. And Sean Cool got a little loose behind him, so the 25 is well going to begin in the picture for the battle for looks like a 4th place.
Yeah, battles all over the place right now. Cook, you can tell Cook is getting, or Watson is getting a little bit impatient with Cook. And then, as you mentioned, Marinak getting right up to Sean Cool in that 24 machine as he was getting loose. So we'll have to see what the 25 can do to the 24, maybe get a few more positions on him. Rasmussen, by the way, is still trying to hold off the 18 of AJ Hamill, still trying to not lose many more spots. And you mentioned that long run speed that he has, and it could be attributing to the fact that he's saving his stuff during the short run, taking it slow, taking it easy, saving those tires, and then letting it loose later in the run. So because he has always got that late run speed.
Talk about someone who's trying to make the best of what they've got. Porter has come back up through the field a little bit. He was in 11th place and is trying to get back in the top 10, which the 22, he's sliding that thing pretty bad. And if he wants to save those tires, I don't know, that's not a very good thing for him. But he needs to get back up there. He needs that track position, so whenever he does get fuel and tires, he'll be able to do it. So Porter gets himself back in 10th, pulls a slide job on the 10 of Mike Holtzclaw right there in turn number 3, and he'll get the position right there. And he did such a good job in practice that I think with the damage, I think he's got some wheel damage just because of the fact that when he goes in the corner, that rear end wants to slide out. And I just have to imagine that that 3 car may not be in the best condition with the damage he's got.
Yeah, you think, Coop? He may have some rear end. His rear spoiler is pushed up about 1.5 feet. But that 3 machine, he's doing a great job. I mean, just hanging on to it. He's actually adjusting his line to keep up that momentum. There he goes again, sliding it, coming off the corner. Really been the only person I've seen, you know, and he does now have the damage, but to get loose coming off the corner. He's gotten up to 10th, restarted in 14th. He was the last car running on the racetrack. Trevin Valderrama and Matthew Hoef both out of the race, as we reported earlier. And meanwhile, back up front, Kyle Barnes continuing to pull away now 0.8 of a second and growing, but Tanner Cook still under pressure from Jake Watson in the 4 machine.
And this has got to be the biggest lead that we've seen from the 15 of Kyle Barnes over the rest of the field. And I've watched him race a lot in the last few weeks, not just in this series, but in a lot of other, smaller events just here and there. And this is what he typically does. He actually sets a moderate pace for the field, and then he's able to go faster. And while the rest of the field is, using their stuff while fighting, he's still saving his tires, even at this point. But despite still pulling away, and then probably around the lap 74 mark or something like that, you're going to start probably seeing him pull away. It's kind of just something that he's been very good at doing lately. It's when we watch our Wednesday series, we see characteristics that pop up all the time between the leaders, and there's another 10th from Kyle Barnes over Tanner Cook. And so I think that's just a characteristic we're probably going to see over the night if Barnes continues to lead this race. We're almost 1/4 of the way there. And also Tanner Cook, he's also not completely letting Watson get to his back bumper this time. He's not taking such a wide exit on those corners, and I think he's actually being a little bit faster each lap consistently. The 4 car, I think, is just pushing it a little harder than he is right now.
Yeah, the 4 is definitely pushing it just a tiny bit harder than that 96 machine, and it's definitely showing. We'll see what he can do this time. Not quite getting the run off the corner that the 96 of Tanner Cook is getting. We still look back behind them at Sean Cool and Stefan Marinak. Marinak able to close that gap in just a little bit more, inch by inch every lap here, Coop, and he's slowly getting that back bumper of the 24 machine. And I say within the next 5-10 laps, he might be there knocking on the door trying to get that 4th position.
Yeah, Marinak and Cool are going at it too for that 4th position, and I think that everyone in particular knows that if they stay behind the driver, they've got a lot to learn about the setup in particular. They've done their long runs. They've done quite long runs, but we've got a lot of these long runs that happen, and while they do happen, there was a change for the 2nd position. Jake Watson did execute the pass on Tanner Cook. It was quick and swift, and they're both black cars, so it was a little bit difficult for me to see at the moment, but that did happen not too long ago, probably about half a lap or so. But Tanner's not done. He gets a little bit on the back bumper of the 4 and lets him know. But I think the 4 car's just got the faster car right now, and he definitely is pulling away just a little bit from Cook. So we'll see if he can start getting on that lead of Barnes.
See what actually the 96 machine was catching him before Jake Watson did go around him. Caught him by about 1/10.5. Now it's back up to 1 second flat, the gap, and I think it was out to about 1.2 when Tanner Cook was not catching the 15 machine. But now gap increases just by a little bit, but I think Jake Watson's going to start reeling him in just a few laps. Barnes still leading, and we're at the 1/4 distance mark already, only 20 minutes in. So this race, barring those 2 early cautions back to back, it's going by pretty quickly.
Still a long race to go, over or under 150 laps to go now, and when you think about it, it's for these guys, it's going to be endurance. I think that's going to be the biggest thing, and not making a mistake. One mistake, as we saw earlier, can really be fatal for these guys' chances to make some money tonight. You mentioned how there's a lot of money on the line. There's a purse of over $100 tonight. 45, 25 for 1st and 2nd, and you've got 20 and 15 for 3rd and 4th, and then 10 for 5th. And if you look at your chances right now, there's 14 drivers, and if you just pass about half of them, you're pretty close to getting that in that top 5, or even if you get the hard charger bonus, which right now would be Stefan Marinak, I believe, who's gone from 10th to 5th right now. So we definitely got to keep our eye on that. Also, and this is something to think about too, they did not come down pit road for fuel, so they will have to come down eventually. They've only got 22 gallons. They will not make it. I think that's something that we'll see probably around lap 100 from most of these drivers, just to try and take the halfway. It makes sense for drivers to come a little bit halfway, maybe a little bit after, since we had our couple cautions. But if it continues to go green, I expect that.
And it does seem like it's going on that trend right now, Coop. Everybody's pretty spaced out. Jake Watson was able to gap Tanner Cook just a little bit after creating that pass, and the closest cars that I can see are the 24 of Sean Cool and Stefan Marinac, but they haven't really gained or lost on each other. They've just been kind of driving around, kind of being stayed even for the most part. So everybody's just trying to ride it out, maybe get to that pit strategy mark. And you mentioned that big person. There's also a bonus for our leader right now if he can get that win and finish it out as strong as he's been going on so far. Only 57 laps in the books now. So Kyle Barnes maybe has that in the back of his head, but he's also got to be racking some fuel strategy because he is the leader, and whatever he does, more people will follow.
Typically, as the leader, you want to pit last, so if he does pit first by chance, it would be everyone would come down because they know that they'd be at a disadvantage. It's starting to look like one of those long stretch runs here, and with that happening, just strategies just got to be on the mind, of course. And to put into perspective of what it would mean if Kyle Barnes won, he got the win on Tuesday, which was the super late model 100, so different cars, mind you, and he led every single lap. Tonight, so far, he's currently done that, and if he wins tonight, it'll be basically the double sweep, and he'll get all the money for it as well. So 45 plus the bonus plus anything else he gets. If he gets the fastest lap, he'll get that. He can't get the hard charger award since he started first, and then he'll get that pole bonus that he's already got. So assuming that he's already got the fastest lap bonus, he's already got 10 bucks. Right now he's in the lead. That's 45. That's quite a bit of money, guys.
Quite a bit of money. Also, quite a bit of money up for grabs. Oh, we got one car into the water barrels coming off of turn number 2. It's Al Smith. Damage to the number 91 machine coming off of turn number 2. Looks like he just got loose. Looks like, yep, coming off the curbs in turn number 2. Ends up hitting the water barrels, ends up actually hitting the concrete wall on the inside. So we're going to get a replay maybe of that. But unfortunately, the number 91 machine already now going a lap down, so he will be your first driver 1 lap down.
Your replay is shown, and that happened because he got on the yellow rumble strip, or really just curbing right before the grass. And of course, the grass is just a little bit of decoration, but the yellow line is definitely not for these drivers. It'll put put a little bit more than decoration on your car if you spin out just like he did. So he goes a lap down. Only good thing about that is I do believe the lucky dogs are on, so Al Smith will be in the position for that, or he could get it the old-fashioned way and just let those guys pit first and then just wait for a possible caution if that is to happen. So gotta believe that these guys, I think, are just starting to fight a little bit harder with these cars, knowing that it's going to be eventually that these guys start to dig for things that aren't there, which the yellow line can help you if you just use it a little bit to your advantage. So, the battle rolls on for the number 91, and he's got to really hope, because it's going to be a long race at the end if he stays 1 lap down.
Yeah, and it's all built on hope right now. You got to stay in it. You got to stay consistent. You can't give up. There's not too much damage for that 91 machine, so if he can get a quick caution, maybe get that lucky dog, try to get that damage fixed, he'll be good to go once again. But he's got to stay consistent. He's got to stay with it. Meanwhile, nothing much else has changed. Just have now look at the 25 of Stefan Marinac, giving the 24 of Sean Cool just a little bump on the back end coming out of turn 2 there, Coop. He's getting just a little bit more impatient as now Tanner Cook is backing up to that 24 machine, and it's about to be a 3-horse race.
Yeah, he's going to let him by. Sean Cool on the outside. He gives the courtesy to the 25 of Stefan Marinac. As I said, he's typically a late run surprise that we don't normally see, but right now we're seeing it a little bit earlier in this race, knowing that, the leader is 3.3 seconds ahead of him. He's got to start going if it keeps going. And so, 25 of Marinac, he is right now still losing pace on the leader, despite being one of the faster cars are in the area. And Tanner Cook, he is starting to catch him as well. He's about a 10th faster than him that last lap. So Marinac's the one to watch right now. He's making a weave through the field, and making his way up the field. So you got to imagine that some guys are coming down, some guys are coming up. Kind of the natural stride of a long green flag run. And these guys are pretty spread out, so they've just got to make those passes when they do, or when you get to Sean Cool let him by. And I think for Cool, it's going to help him out just knowing that he doesn't have to fight and ruin his tires, and let Rasmussen get back into the picture as well.
Last couple laps, Jake Watson has been catching Kyle Barnes, now back out to 1.9 seconds. So Watson's starting to fall back again, closing in on the halfway point. It's been going by pretty quickly. Al Smith Jr. is still your only driver, 1 lap down. So if we do get a caution, he will be your lucky dog free pass, at least for the time being, because we do have Jay Dubuque in the number 65 machine being caught by your leaders. It's maybe about 15 seconds away. So this field's still pretty close, I would say. At Coop, it's getting pretty good through the midfield. I mean, you got drivers like Nicholas Rasmussen catching Sean Cool, who was just passed by Stefan Marinak. Justin McDuff and AJ Hamill, they're battling a little bit, or at least they were the past few laps ago, but it looks like AJ Hamill has gotten around and gotten past the number 20 machine, and now is underway trying to catch the number 71 machine. And Jacob Porter's still in that 10th spot. He's going after Jay Dubuque in the number 61 machine. I'm looking through the field. There's a couple of guys, and also I'd just like to point out Stefan Marinak in the running is in the lead right now for the prize money for Hard Charger. Started in 10th, now up to 4th. It looks like maybe the second driver in that standings is maybe Danny Dubuque in the number 61 machine. He started 13th, now up to 9th.
Yeah, up to 9th, and Dubuque right now, he's in, I think, in a good position for him, right now, and coming up from 13th place. As the field started to spread out in front of him, he had to pass all those guys, and now at this time, I think a lot of these guys are just kind of biding their time, and we haven't really talked about a lot of these guys throughout the field. We haven't talked about Justin McDuff, AJ Hamill. We talked about AJ Hamill not having a good restart one of these times, but other than that, these guys have just kind of been, really patient, really quiet, really biding their time. They're almost lap 75 here as Kyle Barnes is getting ready to get to the start-finish line here shortly for that moment. And Barnes has got himself an extremely big lead right now, 2.1 seconds above Jake Watson. And Watson had tried so hard to get that position from Tanner that I believe that it just kind of wore off his tires a little bit. And speaking of Tanner right now, Tanner Cook right now, the 25, Stefan Marinak's getting closer and closer to the 96.
Yeah, and you talk about Marinak having that, late race or late run charge, I should say. What about that 71 of Nicholas Rasmussen just now starting his car to get up to speed? Now he's all over the back bumper of that 24 machine. He's been approaching that 24 machine of Sean Cool very, very quickly there, Coop, and he's trying everything he can to get to that back bumper and maybe try to make this late race run before halfway gets, because that's what we're all predicting, or that everybody is going to pit, or maybe just a little bit after. So maybe try to get all you can out of the car before you pit, top off for fuel, maybe get some tires and charge for the last 100 laps. But Nicholas Rasmussen almost back up to the 24 of Sean Cool. And as we continue here going
looks like
down
a bit of
through,
problem with Coop.
Yeah, we're just going to continue here, Gabe. And he was talking about Stefan Marinak, and Stefan Marinak is there now, Gabe, just trying to get by the 96, and he's looking, maybe shading, not going to quite get there going into the corner, but he's all over the back bumper of that 96 of Tanner Cook.
Yeah, and if that 25 of Marinak can get past Cook in the number 96 machine, he's going to have a straight shot to the second place driver, Jake Watson, because that driver, he is a heck of a lot faster, and it looks like Coop is actually back now. So Coop, welcome back to the booth. A little bit of mic problems.
Yeah, it just randomly decided it was going to shut off, so I've never really had that happen.
Even your mic doesn't want to hear you.
Never. Oh, ha ha ha. But right now the battles on track, they're sparse, but they're close. And speaking of close, they're not exciting right now. Stefan Marinak on the inside of Cook, and Cook gets a little bit of bump from him right there off of turn number 4. They're still side by side, and Cook's not going to let this one by like the other guys. Knowing the way he races, he's going to try and fight for everything it's worth. Went really wide in the corner. There's still heads up on the back, and Tanner Cook's going to have a good advantage coming out of 2. This shows you the advantage the outside has got on the racetrack since the rubber's been laid down. It's going to be really not the easiest pass from Stefan Marinak, but I bet he will be able to get it just a couple more laps into it. But only thing about that is he pushes up the track just a little bit. it's going to only give Watson and Barnes more time to get away. So, battle still ensues for this position, and Cook, you can see his line. It's very clear what he's doing. He's going high in the corner and then really diving it off the corner, getting a lot of speed.
Yeah, and you got to think about the games that the 96 of Tanner Cook is playing with that 25 right now, because we mentioned at the top of the broadcast here, Coop, that they're fighting tight conditions, which means, Marinette can't, push it down into the corner and get it to stick, because as we've seen these past few laps, and now he's going to surrender behind the 96, he's been pushing up, he can't get it. So as long as the 96 maybe stays down just a little bit, that 25 will not be able to get the run he needs, and he'll have to let out of the gas coming into the corner each time, and that's exactly what happened. The 96 was not rolling over this time. He was holding his ground and holding that third place position.
A huge stall from the 25 of Stefan Marinac is what we're seeing, and he had made such a good charge to get there and made a good charge to the bottom, and looked like he almost had it a couple times, but that outside is so deceiving that you can almost have the driver cleared, and then when you go into the next corner, he'll be able to get some speed just because of the fact that you're going to be warming your tires up a whole lot more than that guy on the outside. And the more laps you do run on the bottom, and this is why Marinac has ceased that, he will be, ruining his tires just more and more as the laps go on, and Cook knows that. He knows exactly what is going on when he does that outside line. You can just see how much rubber is being put down. I love looking at the track from the beginning to right now because of the fact that there is so much rubber with, despite 16 cars being on the track, or 14 I should say, it's still a lot of rubber being put down, and it's still quite a wide margin. But Cook went to the area of the track where it wasn't so ran as much, and that's where he got all of his speed.
I'm still waiting to see what that number 25 machine can do, because we've seen how much faster he is, and actually with these guys racing, you'd be surprised how much they didn't lose from the number 4 machine of Jake Watson. Watson, he's actually catching Kyle Barnes a little bit by little. I think it was about a 10th and a half last lap. And we've seen that. He catches him a few laps, gets in a rhythm, and then just loses it. So unfortunately, I don't think Jake Watson has the car at the moment to catch our leader, who is 2.5 seconds in front of this field. Marinac looks like he's about to try and make another move at it, Coop, because he's getting faster and faster, getting back to that back bumper. And he was nice the first time, racing side by side and clean. I think we might see the chrome horn on that DMC DeLorean get used.
Yeah, that Back to the Future car is really cool to look at. And I don't think I've seen anyone do that yet. And look at Cook. He goes really high in the corner. I don't know if that was a mistake or not, or whether he's going to let him go here, because he has been trying a lot lately to get that position. So give Stefan Marinac the bottom, and Cook will continue to try and pull the top. But I don't know if that was on purpose or not, because Cook is still trying, and I don't think that move was intentional, because that number 96 is still really going for the top side, and Marinac's been giving him plenty of room. He's not been sliding up a whole lot, and Cook hasn't really been pinching him down, and I think that's just basically the stage of the race we're in. We're almost halfway, and you gotta imagine that these guys are trying to just get the position and not give it up, but also not lose that much speed. The only thing is they are losing a lot of speed to the guy in front of them and to the leader. That's just the nature of going side by side, and Marinac once again has to yield the position, and he cannot get it at this point. And I think pit stops are going to really change this race. If they continue to run green, they will have to come down. I'd say it won't be too long before that happens, and probably shortly after halfway.
Yeah, and that's what we're all predicting here, Coop. But now you see Marinac power back off of turn 2 once again, trying to get on the inside. But once he gets to the inside of that 96 machine, he really can't do much, because the 96 is hurting the exit of that 25 machine, and he's not able to power off as hard as he needs to. So the 25 may start using the bumper here, or he may just be relaxing, because as you mentioned, pit stops are fastly approaching, so he might just be holding off, waiting for those fresh tires, and then giving that 25 machine all he got.
And it's kind of like the when they're going to come in. We know they're going to have to come down pit road. They only had 22 gallons to start off with. It's not possible to make it the rest of the way, even if you were to pit during that first little stint of caution flag going. But as we say, I take that back. Barnes has come down pit road, it would seem a little premature, but he will have the advantage. He is the first driver, noticeably, to come down pit road, and we will watch him make the long trek. So that gives Jake Watson the lead. First lead change of the night, and that's big. We'll have to see how he gets the job done here. It's going to be very, very important, very, very crucial to see what the 15 can do, and I do believe the 4 is coming down as well.
Now, I'm looking to see, does the 15, I mean, he's more than likely going to take 4 tires, or yeah, I do see the right side go up, but some of these guys trying to catch him, do they take right sides and just blast out of the pits and use those right sides to their advantage and save a little bit of time?
Be tough to say. I mean, it's if this race continues to go green, I just cannot. I can't say that a lot of drivers would do that, because the fact of the matter is they only get 2 jacks. You know, they can only jack the car out twice, and with the way iRacing has set it up now, you can only take 2 tires at a time. You can't take single tires. And as we watch Kyle Barnes come out of the pits, you can see the massive amount of speed he has right now. So Cook coming down pit road as well. He's going to take it down to a very, very, very slow 35 miles an hour, and see that the right front looks pretty hurt right now.
Yeah, it does, and now we're starting to see everybody make that trek down pit road. As Kyle Barnes is just now trying to get, you got to think of the time you're losing by staying out, and also the time you lose on pit road. You want to minimize that damage. You do go 1 lap down, but it should cycle out. It's hard to tell. Oh, Jake Watson gets a little bit loose coming off of 2, almost collects the AJ Hamill machine coming through there on 4 fresh tires. You gotta watch out for the slow cars, because they're almost like landmines out there, Coop, because they're going slower than you are. Their tires are not up to speed, and you're going way faster than they are. So you gotta watch out for all these lap cars, so to speak, who haven't come down pit road, because you can easily run on the back of one, and that just about happened for that 4 machine.
And the weird thing is that Barnes right now is behind Al Smith Jr. and behind Jake Watson in the standings.
We got guys who took 2 tires.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't think it would happen, but I think you definitely called it, Gabe, that is going to change the complexion of the race entirely, knowing that he will probably catch them, but can they benefit off of maybe a mid for caution, like maybe around 150? That would benefit them in the best, because your right sides are basically your bread and butter of short track racing. Your left sides are pretty important too, but if you have new right sides and old left sides, you'll be able to rotate the corner a little bit better, because the left sides they'll be more likely to just get you loose. So I'm very curious to see how this turns out.
There's another thing I'm curious about. When they do come down, or they've come down at lap 100, we had 2 cautions to save fuel during that time. If they save fuel, or even if, just running under caution, and they can only make it to about lap 100, we're seeing it now that these guys are coming down. They're still not down, so I think this may be proven wrong. But if they do end up needing to come down to pit road one more time, these guys that took 2 tires, they're going to have another set in the pit. So yeah, like you said, if we get a caution with 50, 40 laps to go, that may be the determining factor. But those guys, the guys who have taken 4, won't come down pit road. They'll have no reason to, except maybe if they're short of fuel. But it's a really interesting dynamic here, Coop.
Definitely hindsight 2020. If Barnes took 2 tires, he'd be in the best seat in the house, I'd say. But definitely, I don't think predicted that, because himself, Tanner Cook, and I think Rasmussen as well, McIntyre, at least he's 2 laps down now, but those guys definitely were thinking 4 tires was the way to go, and then the other guys definitely thinking that that would not be the case. But it looks like Tanner Cook is coming down pit road a second time. This could be big problems for the 96 right now. The fact that coming down pit road again could mean that he's either got a penalty or he's going to come down and get more fuel, whether he didn't add it or something like that. So we'll see that he doesn't take any tires. And it doesn't look like it's definitely going to be a penalty for this duration of peeking down pit road. So possibly a speeding penalty, possibly exit violation or something like that. Nonetheless, he's got to serve it, and that might be in the race for the 96.
Yeah, and the 96 had such a good run running in that 3rd place position here, Coop. Doing so well, holding off that 25 of Marinac for the longest time. But he just it's so easy to make mistakes at Martinsville. Speeding, exit violations, coming up just a little bit too quick or coming in just a little bit too hard. It's so easy to do, and he's fell victim for it. And like you mentioned, this could be it, because you don't get a lot of leeway here at Martinsville. He's 3 laps down now just by coming down pit road for a second time, so he might not get another chance to get back on the lead lap. Meanwhile, Stefan Marinak, that 25 machine, just mentioned him, still out on the track, still running on the lead lap, and still your leader. So what that 25 machine has up his sleeve is beyond me.
It could be the possibility that he's doing the fuel. He's doing a bit of strategy, just like a couple other guys. If he can go and stay out there, catch a caution, he'll be the guy that everyone wants to be. Him, Sean Cool, AJ Hamill, Justin McDuff, Danny Dubuque. Everyone will want to be them at that point, because they will come down pit road, get their tires, but some of those guys won't have tires at all. They will be beat on track, basically, and you don't want to be that guy. And looks like Barnes is going to get around Al Smith Jr. right there for the 7th position, but the 4 right there gets under 25 of Stefan Marinak, trying to uplap himself the old-fashioned way, and the number 4 goes down, and so put 6 cars now on the lead lap, and so that remains that the first car 1 lap down would be Kyle Barnes. The lucky dog would go to him, and you saw the desperation, I think, from the 4 right there just to get that lap back, but you know, we see it happen so often that these guys do want to keep them a lap down because they're much faster. If you can just hold them up just for maybe like a few tenths of a second, that's going to be huge.
Yeah, I think what he's wanting to do is put as many cars as he can between he and Kyle Barnes, because Barnes is catching him by about maybe 2-3 tenths a lap. He's right now running 21 flats, and Watson's last lap, or it looks like his last lap was in traffic, so let's see what he can get it done on open track. As he comes by the start-finish line, 21.3, so 3 tenths of a second a lap, and Barnes isn't even close at the moment. He's going into turn 1 right now as Watson is going down the back straightaway. So a huge lead for Watson. Can he hang on to it? And will those left side tires come into play? As it looks like we got 1 car down pit road at it looks like Danny Dubuque, your final driver, or your last driver to come to pit road. He was running 5th out of the 5 cars who have yet to pit.
Yeah, you still have those 4. You still got McDuff, Hamill, Cole, and Marinak in reverse order on the field, but it's kind of a cat and mouse game at this point. You know, when do these guys come in? When do they come get tires? When do they come get fuel? Why aren't they coming down? I think that's a mystery, at least to some of these guys. I think if I was to speculate on it, it'd be the fact that it's just pure track position. And when they do come down, they are going to lose a little bit of time, but they'll have the freshest tires out there. And not to mention, if they only take 2, it would be some of the fastest pit stops we've seen all day. And they're not really losing that much time. I'd say that, you know, it'd be, when you compare the lap of Jake Watson right there in front of Stefan Marinak, it's only 2 tenths. 2 tenths is the difference between Marinak and Jake Watson. That's not that much, although 2 tenths has gotten him quite a bit in the last couple laps. You know, he comes on pit road, Jake Watson will most definitely pass him. But if everything plays out in the favor of going green all the way, it can still be a really good day for Marinak, Cool, Hamill and company.
It can, Coop. And you mentioned it. Once Kyle Barnes was the first driver to come down, Marinak and the 4 drivers that are still out there are ultimately just losing time. They're losing 2 tenths. And it might not be a lot, but they're also losing track time, because we've already hit lap 121 that time by. They are losing time that they need to make it up and get back up towards the front. So even though it's only a 2-tenth gap, when he does pit and get those fresh tires, 2 tenths isn't going to be enough, depending on when he pits, to get him back up to Kyle Barnes or even Jake Watson in that 4 machine.
And as Stefan Marinak completes lap 121 and they're on lap 22, we'll go ahead and take a midway race break provided by iRacing for this late model race. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and many, many more on the service. Of course, leading right now as we go through your full-field rundown is Stefan Marinak, Sean Cool, AJ Hamill third, Justin McDuff, and Jake Watson. They're the only guys on the lead lap right now, Gabe.
Only guys on the lead lap. You follow it through your top 5. Now to 6, going to be Kyle Barnes. He's your first driver, 1 lap down. Still trying to reel in Jake Watson in the number 4 machine. Al Smith Jr. in 7th. Nicholas Rasmussen, I should say, in the 8th position. Jacob Porter fought his way from being in the last wreck, now up to 9th. James McIntyre in the 10th position. James McIntyre and Murdoch is going to take the rest of the field.
Danny Dubuque going to be in that 61 machine in 11th, 2 laps down. Mike Holtzclaw in 12th, Tanner Cook 13th. 14th goes to Jay Dubuque in that 65, and the 2 drivers that are off the track and no longer competing in this race, that's the 02 of Trevin Valderrama in 15th and Matthew Hoeft in that 16th place position.
And that's been a look at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can now visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. Get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership for half off, or simply try it with a 3-month membership for less than $5. Again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. Stefan Marinak currently leads, but looks like Kyle Barnes is ready to unlap himself. We'll continue to watch this battle for just a little bit, as looks like he will most definitely get that lap here in turn number 3. And as this pass gets executed, we will take a moment to step aside here on LSRTV, catch a moment of our break, so we'll go non-stop to the end of this race till from lap 182 to lap 200. Don't want to go miss a little bit of the action, so we'll see you here in just a bit.
When I was 16 years old, I was working in a Goodyear tire store, and my boss actually built an old dirt car, street stock Monte Carlo. Went with him one night, fell in love with it. It was a hell of a race, hell of a party, and a big fight afterwards. I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It wasn't long after that, I was driving an old 78 Camaro out of the weeds at that guy's farm. We pulled that thing out and made a race car out of it, and away we went. You know, I think a driver has more to do with the equation going back and racing dirt, whether it's a modified, a late model. You can do more with the race car. You know, the harder you drive it, a lot of times, the better it goes. You can crawl up on that wheel and feel like you made the difference at the end of the night. Asphalt car, you can't overdrive them. Well, that was the first thing that I had to learn right off the bat is, oh my gosh, I've got to discipline myself, not overdrive this thing, and that's how you get the most out of it. Truth be told, communicating the right information to your crew and your crew chief so they can do their job and make their appropriate adjustments for you to go faster and do your job is probably 90% of the game in our world. I've always loved late models. You know, my dream was to be a late model driver driving for a living across the country like Daryl and Don do that drive for me. I mean, that was, truth be told, that was my dream, you know. I always wanted a semi. I always wanted a stacker trailer with 2 hot rods in it, and let's go racing. Let's take off with your buddies and go race and chase that dream. Never in a million years did I think it would turn into a Cup Series, and I actually have an opportunity to own 2 dirt late model teams. When you think of iRacing, you don't think of a video game. It's not. It's way above and beyond any of that. You know, dirt racing changes so much. The track changes so much. Being able to capture that, to experience all those details that surround dirt racing and make dirt racing what it is what makes iRacing so cool, because they did nail all of that. I knew when they came to our shop and scanned cars and went to the detail of getting that car right, I knew that it was going to be over the top, because it blew my mind just the work that went into making sure the car itself was legit. This sport has been around a long time. The competition can't be replaced, and that's what brings people back to the racetrack week in and week out.
Welcome back to the Martinsville Speedway as we're watching the late model nationals right now for the Upstate Racing League. And right now, Stefan Marinak leads these guys with a 2.2 second lead over Sean Cool, but that is not the only thing that is of to mention. There's only 6 cars on the lead lap, and that would include Marinak, Sean Cool, and then you've got AJ Hamel, Justin McDuff, Jake Watson, and Kyle Barnes. It's been an interesting race so far with 2 cautions and a lot of drivers coming down pit road, although 4 of them have not. They just happen to be your first 4 cars here, Gabe. And right now, they've only got 12 seconds of a lead between themselves and the first guy to pit. So pitting right now, if it goes green, it could pay off. But right now, Stefan Marinak's in a good position. If he doesn't have to come down pit road for fuel, which it would be a stretch, it might work out, but I think it's too early to call.
Be an extreme stretch. I mean, we have 60 laps to go, but apparently Murdoch, he was kind of listening, and the 25 may have been shutting it off in the corners a few laps ago. So maybe that 25 machine is on the brink of either making it, or he's trying to get a few extra laps out of it to try and coax a caution out and maybe try and come down pit road. Because right now, he's got 6 cars. If he comes down pit road right now or waits for a caution and the caution comes out, he's got brand new tires, and he only has to pass 2 people.
Right, and the thing is there's still battles right now. It looks like the 91, well, the 71 is going to pass the 91 of Al Smith Jr., and that is for position. And that's for the 7th position right there. So Rasmussen will get that with no contest, actually, from the number 91. And so a little bit of a way from the 71 out the window to keep him going. And I've got to believe that these guys are racing pretty close just to see what's, but I don't see them racing hard enough to cause a caution. I think something's got to mechanically go wrong on one of these cars. They're not being too nice, but I think they're just giving each other so much room in the corners, and they kind of have to with the way the top line works and the bottom line work, at that I don't see these guys racing hard enough to really bring out a caution right now.
I don't either, Coop, and I think this race has a very, very good chance of finishing under the green flag. And as Gabe mentioned during the break, I thought I was hearing Stefan Marinak shutting off the car, but he hasn't really done it lately. I don't know what the method behind the madness is, but with this 25, you guys mentioned that he might be able to stretch it, but as you guys mentioned, that it would be an extreme stretch as we're
a battle for second starting to roll off. AJ Hamel just made the pass for position on Sean Cool right there in turn number 3, and looks like the number 24 of Cool has definitely lost a lot on his car as he gets the shot to the number 20. I should have not spoken earlier about how these guys weren't getting a little dicey right there. Just gave a little bit to the number 20 of Justin McDuff, and that was good for position. So know that the 24 is definitely losing a lot on the car. He lost 2 positions right there in 1 turn. I don't think he can make it on fuel. I think that is a big problem for the 24. He's going so slow that I've got to believe that, and it happened so suddenly that I believe that right now he's trying to save fuel right now.
He's either trying to save fuel or something happened with the number 24 machine, because he's hitting the wall on entry every time. I don't know what he's doing, but he's lost a lot of time, and the 71 is actually, or excuse me, I thought it was Rasmussen going for the 3rd position, but he's actually trying to unlap himself here in the next few minutes. And while we're sitting here looking at it, that gap's coming down here, Coop. Watson, he had about a 4 or 5 second lead whenever he came out of the pits on close to lap 100. We're 50 laps later, and he's about 3.3 ahead of Kyle Barnes, so it's closing down.
With all the action that is happening in front of them, with all these cars on the lead lap, all these cars just off the lead lap, or even more laps off the pace, it's really good for Watson and Barnes right now. You know, they've got clean racing room, and you know, you can even throw Tanner Cook, although he's 2 laps down. Those guys have plenty of room to do whatever they feel like on the racetrack. And yeah, Kyle Barnes is starting to take that gap a little bit down, but it's 4 seconds. It's going to be 50 laps before this race is over, whether it goes green or whether it goes, you know, whether we have a caution. I feel Barnes is going to be able to catch him. I think another story is of course, passing him, because neither of them are going to back down, especially for the win when it comes down to it. But it's going to be such a long stretch here that I believe that the Watson and Barnes are going to be able to really catch these guys before it's all over. Only thing is they've got to start really going now, and I don't think that they would have any reason to hold back any, but you know, if they can go any faster, I would say they probably would be right now.
That's correct, and they have to be giving it all they got, and I think Kyle Barnes in that 15 machine is, because he's been able to cut down that gap to Jake considerably, and he's been able to cut it off lap by lap by lap. So we might see a battle for the 5th place position shape up here within the maybe next 10-15 laps, if that. So a lot of stuff to watch out for. Now Sean Cool, he's battling through these lap traffic, trying to catch up to that 20 of Justin McDuff, and Stefan Marinac is just the class of the field right now, able to somehow save this much fuel in the 24 into the inside wall.
Right now, we got Sean Cole hitting the inside wall. Don't know what happened right there, but he lost some power for turn number 4. We'll get a replay up in just a moment. Something happened right there with the 24 and the 65. That would be Jay Dubuque. He had no idea what was going on. The 24 just stopped going. No power or something like that, but he's continuing to go. Unsure what's going on, but he continues to hold on to the 4th right now, but a bunch of damage on the 24.
Yeah, no hope really for the 65 machine at Dubuque. He had nowhere to go on that. And Sean Cool just into the inside wall. We remain under green, so that's good for at least Stefan Marinac for the time being. But Jack Watson, you know, Cool's actually now in between these guys. He's now been passed by Jack Watson. That's how much time he lost, who's now 8 seconds behind the leaders. So Sean Cool's going to have to battle Kyle Barnes here in the next few laps.
And I don't really think it's going to be a battle, because Sean Cole never came down for tires. And there's the engine. 24 just blew an engine right there. And so that's going to be the end of the night for the 24.
Yeah, and what a tough break for Sean Cole. He's had such a very, very consistent night, running around in the top 5 all night. And we mentioned how consistency is key. He was just trying to hold on, seeing if he could make it to the end, save fuel. And unfortunately coming to an end late in this race, crossing the 158 and into lap 159.
Now, I heard him shifting in the corners the last couple laps, and I think that might have something to do with it. You know, if you start to really mess with the engine and the RPMs and miss a shift or do something like that, that could make sense of why he was a lot slower. Really unfortunate for the 24, not the way he wanted to end the night. Sadly, it's going to be an engine expiration, which will put him at the very end of it. He'll probably finish in the 14th position when it's all said and done. Although you're going to have to regulate the number 4 and the 15 up 1 position after that, so they'll be 4th and 5th, trying to catch your leaders. That would be Marinac in 1st, AJ Hamill in 2nd, and Justin McDuff in 3rd. And they're not really that far away from each other. They're about 1 second to 4 seconds away from each other. And then you've got Jake Watson, who's continuing to keep pressure on and continuing to take more time off, as Barnes is as well.
And actually, Watson was pulling away there for the past few laps. He ended up getting it outside 3 seconds, so about 3.3 or 3.4 seconds. But now he's starting to get reeled back in by Barnes, who's now gained about 3/10, maybe a lap, back to where he was earlier. They're now running pretty much similar lap times. Barnes actually slower that lap, so looking good for Jack Watson if these guys can't make it. But he's only 6.2 seconds behind, and he's beginning to catch him. Justin McDuff is only 3.5 seconds ahead of him, so it's going to be pretty close here if these guys can actually make it on fuel, which is astounding to me that they could actually make it.
And the battle for the lead, for the actual race lead between Marinac and AJ Hamel is starting to shape up as well. You're seeing the 71 on the bottom. He's trying to unlap himself, and that is because of pit strategy, like we're just talking about. And Rasmussen is not going away. He wants that position 25. He's going to yield it right here to turn number 1, and AJ Hamel might have a chance to crack on it right here to turn number 2 as they continue to go side by side in the backstretch. AJ Hamel looking to see if he can get anything right here. Looks like right now would be the right time to do it. He gets to the very bottom of the track, but right now it's not the place you want to pass unless you've got the good tires, which the 71 does. He's trying to get it completed. Doesn't quite have it yet. Rasmussen's not fast enough for the 25 to cut down in front of the 18 just quite yet. That might do it right. No, not yet. 71's still on the inside. 25's trying to give that room to the bottom so the 18 will take it so he can continue the run to the high side, I would assume. And that's exactly what's going to happen. They're going to get single file now. Now the 18 can go to work to the 25.
Yeah, and I'm still trying to understand what these guys are doing to save this much fuel, Coop. And I've actually, you know, taken the headset off, went on an onboard view of Stefan Marinac, and he is letting off the gas considerably early here, guys. He's off the gas at the start-finish line, coasting it all the way down the straightaway, and that is why we're seeing AJ Hamlin at 18 catch him so quickly. He is off the gas halfway down the straightaway on the backstretch and at the start-finish line, going down into turn 1. So he's doing a considerable amount of work to try to keep fuel in that car and try to make it to the end of this race.
Well, you gotta do what you gotta do whenever it's the race when the race is on the line, and you know he's not backing down too much. Look at the 18 power down to the back to the bottom of the track right there in turn number 1, and he's still side by side with him, and he just can't get the run off. He doesn't have the speed to do it right now. And Justin McDuff looms in the distance, 1.4 seconds off. He was over 3 seconds, almost 4 seconds behind not too long ago. This battle right now is going to bring everyone back in. Watson, 3.8 seconds back. Barnes, 6.8 seconds back. These guys are closing in, and we're getting close to the 7/8 mark of the race when it really is crunch time. Marinac is really holding him off, but you can see the difference in line. And I think you said it right, Gabe. He is definitely, which one? I don't know which one of you it was, but one of you said it, that he was coasting basically into turn number 1. You can see the difference going into the corner right now.
Coop, I'm looking back at it. I'm looking at the rules. Under caution, these guys can add fuel and add it up to 22 gallons. I'm looking back to see if the 25 of Marinac has been on pit road this race, because if he has, he's going to be able to make it.
A big development right now, but I don't know if he's even going to, even with the fuel right now, he's got to be able to hold an 18 off right now. That's the key right now. He is barely holding him off, and I'd say barely because when he goes into the corner, he's got his nose just barely on the right rear of the 18. If the 18 were to just go into the corner and slide up, it doesn't matter. 18's got the corner right now. If he slides up, he'll have it, and he's got to do it right here. He put him in the wall. He put him in the wall.
Wow. Caution is out.
Did not want to see that.
Marinac definitely didn't want to see it. We were coming down to crunch time, and I feel like Marinac had it figured out. But there is a considerable amount of damage to that 25 car now.
Big winner, I'd say, after all of this. AJ Hamel, depending on the ruling on this, AJ Hamel may get the EOL. If he does, Justin McDuff can come back down pit road, get 2 more right side tires, and probably be in the catbird seat when this one's all said and done, considering there's only 6 cars on the lead lap. This just took a change for the better for him, and I think for everyone else, they're kind of thinking to themselves, man, what in the world just happened? And Marinac right now, he's coming down pit road, and wow, we're going to have to see what he's able to do with that race car.
Coop, I'm looking back at the replay. I mean, the 25 and the 18 were clear on each other, and I guess the 18 thought, you know, that the 25 was not going to have a run, because you really don't expect to see a run on the outside of Martinsville, and he was just continuing his normal line, and the 25 was there on the outside. That really could go either way, but I'd have to side with the 18 on that.
I don't think Marinac had anywhere to go, and I think that would be his argument on the matter. Either way, it was great racing, and you know, from our vantage point, that was I think that was really hard racing, and I think, you know, Marinac will look at it and say, you know, he had the run on the outside, should have let him go, you know, still had plenty of racing to go, but Hamel had plenty of time to do it. You know, he had plenty of opportunities to dive it in and go in front of it anyways. He was trying to pass him clean, so obviously was not malicious by anything, but I think because of that, that's really what you've got to think about. But back up front, Barnes is back up to the front, and he's going to be the leader right now. Only thing about that is there are some guys behind him that do have the strategy on hand. Rasmussen, he came and got 4. Al Smith, he took 2, but he's coming down pit road. We'll see if he takes the other 2. Watson, I do believe, took 2 as well, so he came back down and got that as well. Justin McDuff, he took 2 and is, I believe, has taken those tires as well. So top 6 right now is a jumbled mess right now, guys.
Yeah, so your leader is on 76 or so lap-old tires all around. And so is Nicholas Rasmussen in the number 71 machine on the outside. But the driver who's in a really good position to get the run off the restart and get second, and then go after him as a driver who has, I guess, brand new rights or brand new lefts. Didn't see what he took there on his pit stop. Yeah, it looks like right sides.
Yeah, it must have been on the right sides. Thing is, though, and this is the big thing, and they are getting the restart, it looks like, this lap. They're going to have to get organized pretty quickly here. But Barnes and Rasmussen, they'll start on the front row. But the number 18 of A.J. Hamel was given that EOL penalty. So depending, actually, they're going to take another lap of yellow. So we can discuss this a little bit more. Barnes, Rasmussen, Watson, McDuff, and Hamel. I'll go ahead and throw Al Smith Jr. in there just because of the fact that he's the last car on the lead lap out of 16 cars. But the number 18 of Hamel was given that penalty, so despite what the drivers will talk about, that's the guy who, in the end, didn't really hurt that much from it, but right now he's going to have to start from the end of that 6 car, or at the end of the longest line, really.
We'll be getting the green flag with 22 laps to go. And this is going to be the most wild 22 laps I think we'll see all night here, guys. There's so much strategy played in here. As the pace car pulls off, we'll get ready to go back green.
Perhaps the final green flag of the night, perhaps the final restart, and perhaps the greatest chance that some of these guys have to win this race. Big bump from the 4, the 15 didn't even go yet, and the 20 is going to be in suit, but Barnes, huge lead, biggest lead he's had on a restart all night, 4 car lengths, and look at the 20 on the outside. He's going to get a big run on the 71. 4 was boxed in. Jarek Watson did not have a chance behind that 71 as he was bumping into him a bunch, and he's going to really put himself in the inside, side by side for 3rd, and that 4 absolutely squeezed himself in between himself, the wall, and the 71.
What a move for 3rd, and we actually got a battle for the lead. The 20's going to the inside of Kyle Barnes here down the back straightaway. Can he get the run going in? Barnes is going to take a late exit. He's going to almost gets spun around. Great save from the number 15 machine. Locked up the tires on entry. Now we've got a side-by-side battle for the 2nd spot. The 4 of Watson. He's now caught these guys. We're inside 20 laps to go. It's 3 different strategies working against each other here at Martinsville.
20 laps to go, and they'll get 19 to go at the stripe. Barnes has got to have that right rear and right front a little bit worn out from that spin. Here comes the 20 of Justin McDuff coming on the bottom of the track. Does he have the momentum? Does he have the car? Barnes is squeezing him down to the bottom of the track, maybe a little too much, and they're going to have a little bit of contact between all 3 of them. They're going in the corner, and Barnes is going to come off the wall just a little bit to show the 20 a little bit of displeasure right there, and Barnes is going to go back to the bottom of the track to have his position. Great racing and a huge bump for the 20 off of turn number 4.
Yeah, McDuff and that 20 machine's not going to put up with Kyle Barnes for too much longer. Barnes has to do everything he can because he is on those very old tires. And if it goes to show how much Kyle Barnes did not want that caution under the yellow flag, all Barnes had to say is with contact again and a save once again as the 20 going to go all the way up in the grass and try to get it. That's going to allow the 4 of Watson to take second. And now Watson looking to the inside and now more contact between Kyle Barnes. Barnes doing everything he can, and he finally surrenders the lead to Watson, and now the 20 of McDuff gonna follow suit.
Barnes is making no friends. He's all over the racetrack now into the 20 machine of McDuff as they go around. Sorry, Coop.
Oh, it's all right. It's great action, but Barnes has basically lost this race due to that strategy and knows that it's basically the 20's fault, and that's why he roughed him up there in turn number 3. 20 basically ended his chances of having any chance at winning the race, and he will now be basically losing out on that bonus unless anything happens in front of those two guys. And Barnes is not happy. Any driver in that position would be unhappy with the fact that he raced all those drivers extremely clean to get by him, to get to the position he was, and then to be moved out of the way twice nonetheless. But in the end, the 20's back at it. McDuff will probably do the same move to the 4. I don't know if he'll do it as quickly, knowing that the 4 has the tires to get back to him.
Well, I'd have to disagree with you there, Coop. I think the 15 was driving so aggressive, he had no choice. He was pinching guys down, and if you pinch here in Martinsville, you run the risk of them having and hitting that curb, that yellow curb there on the inside, and that automatically shoves a car to the outside lane. So I think Barnes kind of did that to himself and destroyed his chances of winning this race. And with Marinac going out of tonight's race, he's now in the 13th spot. Justin McDuff has now moved into the biggest mover position, the hard charger. Second is Al Smith. He's picked up 5 spots, but McDuff has gone from 9th to now 2nd and trying to go after the big payday, getting the win here in Martinsville.
I'm sure to him it'd be a lot sweeter to also get that hard charger award with the winner's trophy at the end of the day. Not too many laps left, 12 to go, and you've got Barnes trying to hold off Rasmussen, and then none of that really matters when it starts to get down to the nitty-gritty, because it's that lead that is kind of stabilized between Watson and McDuff. These guys absolutely have a very similar strategy, and I'd say that McDuff had the strategy to win, really. I think if he was able to maneuver himself around Barnes, or basically if they were able to fight a lot cleaner, then the 4 wouldn't have been in the picture, and he wouldn't have been able to come down the track so quick to pass Barnes. But in the end, here's where we are. We'll get 10 laps to go at the stripe here.
Yeah, 10 laps to go this time by 6 drivers on the lead lap, but it's basically a 2-horse race. The closest driver to this 2-car battle is that as Barnes in 3rd. He's already 2 seconds back. So Watson trying to do everything he can to hold off the 20 of Justin McDuff, and you're seeing the 20 get the run off the corner. They're there, they're even. We'll see how long it takes, as like you mentioned, Coop, we're inside that 10 laps to go, how long it takes for McDuff to use that chrome horn like he did on Barnes.
You got to know that the 20 car has 4 tires. The 4 has 2, so don't think that the 4 has 4 just because he's got the number on his side. He's going to be trying to battle and trying to defend that position with basically half the advantage that the 20 has right now, and gotta believe that the 4 is thinking of every single way to keep that 20 behind him, going to the top side, letting him go to the bottom, and having basically an advantage. You can see the way that they're going in the corner. They're basically making a 2-point turn, or you could call it a double apex. And right now, with the 20 going, just kind of sitting right now, you've got to expect that the 20 is going to try something. He's going to try something probably in the next few laps. I think he tries it right now. The 4 is going to get back at him and make him pay for it. If he's going to try and use the chrome horn, which I don't think he's afraid to use right now, I don't think any of them really are. There's a lot of emotions going on inside that cockpit. 6 laps to go, and these 2 guys up front, it'll be a battle to remember if it comes down to that chrome horn.
Oh, I'm loving the 20's line right now. That machine, he's arcing it in high and making it as straight as possible coming off the corner. He's almost taking a dirt track line to it, trying to get the run coming off the corner, using those 4 fresh tires, those new Hoosiers on that number 20 machine to his advantage. He may be able to get it done. He's actually lost a little bit because he hasn't been able to turn it down as good as he wishes he could. But now he's starting to gain that back. Still no contest from the 15 and the 18 behind him. Actually, Barnes and Hamill going at it for the 3rd spot. But these guys going after it hard there for that lead. Closing in inside 5 laps to go.
Barnes hit the wall last time by, and you got also A.J. Hamill in the mix of it. And I'd say with the way that the 15 is driving, I'd say you'd have to move him over. Huge crash turn number 1. 96 is in the wall. That's going to end the race.
Yeah, a hard crash by the 96 of Tanner Cook into the outside wall. Heartbreak for that driver as he tries to go to the inside of Jake Porter. Porter goes and gets huge contact to the inside wall, bounces back off, and right back into that 96. So unfortunate, but as you mentioned, Coop, that does it. The fort of Jake Watson did everything he needed to do to hold off Justin McDuff and all the other drivers behind him to come home victorious after 200 laps at Martinsville.
Yeah, and they're still pretty upset with each other. Looks like Barnes just brake checked the 18 of AJ Hamill as Hamill was trying to show his displeasure with him. So I'm sure after race festivities between those two and maybe Barnes and a couple other drivers, maybe the 20 in Barnes, I think in particular, will be an interesting conversation to have after the race if that happens. But you know, in the end, I think the thing we gotta really say is strategy really played dividends for that 4. But when it came down to under 5 laps to go, there is no waiting around. And I think 20 was trying to size up the 4 at the end, Gabe. And I think kind of lost track of knowing that if a caution were to come out, which we really weren't expecting, that could possibly be that he just gets stuck in second.
Well, it would have been a great finish to see with, 3 laps to go. The 20 was catching him, but it's a shame it had to be ruined by guys who were not racing for position. Like, that's what we have to realize here. We had the 3 that was 1 lap down, and the 96 that was 2 laps down, and drivers racing for, nothing basically. It's unfortunate, but these guys race their hearts out, and the Ford machine's coming to the win.
They'll go into turn 3, easy enough, and follow that pace car out of turn number 4. And for tonight, he'll be the Upstate Racing League's winner for tonight's late model national race. So 200 laps later, the number 4 of Jake Watson is your winner here at Martinsville Speedway after a long, grueling 201 laps tonight.
What a win by the Ford machine of Jake Watson. I gotta say, I would have been excited to see what happened in the next few laps with Justin McDuff, but great second from the driver. He's gonna come home with your biggest mover award. And a good payday for finishing second, but he wanted that win.
Oh yeah, any driver that was at close, a few tenths before the last few laps were over, before that caution came out, definitely, I think, a little bit of a heartbreak for the 20, but still wasn't, I think, in a good position. We really didn't talk about Justin McDuff a whole lot until that strategy started to come, and then the caution came out, restacked him, and really just kind of played out to be a good race. Not the best race he could have had, but a really good race for him. So as Jake Watson starts to burn it down, we'll talk to him and your other top 3 finishers here in just a moment, as we'll step aside for just a moment, take a break of our own, and we'll get the details from these drivers. You've been watching LSRTV's coverage of the Upstate Racing League Late Model Nationals here at Martinsville Speedway. Back to Martinsville Speedway as we just concluded with Upstate Racing League's Late Model Nationals, and we'll go through your full field results. Here is Jake Watson. He brought home the victory and the prize tonight of $45, and depending on who had the fastest lap, we'll find that probably post-race, and we'll definitely find out who got that hard charger bonus, which does appear to be Justin McDuff, who finished in that second position. It might actually be between him and Al Smith Jr., but I'd say he gets the tiebreaker. Then you've got Kyle Barnes, who finished in the third position. We'll talk to those three guys in just a moment. Then AJ Hamill and Al Smith Jr. will finish in the top 5.
Sixth place is going to go to the Scandinavian, the number 74 of Nicholas Rasmussen in the 6th spot. He's going to be your final driver on the lead lap. James McIntyre comes from 7th to finish 7th, 1 lap down in the number 06 machine. Danny Dubuque, the first of the 2 Dubukes in tonight's field, started 13th and comes home in the 8th spot. 2 laps down is Mike Holtzclaw, and Jay Dubuque, the second of the Dubuque guys, is going to be coming home in that 10th position.
Jacob Porter and Tanner Cook involved in that last caution there. Going to be 10th, 11th, and 12th. Stefan Marinac going to be 13th. Sean Cool 14th, 15th. Trevin Valderrama and Matthew Hoth is going to be 16th.
That's been a look at your full field rundown, and right about now is the time when we start to look and see if we can get a hold of Jake Watson. Looks like currently he has not stopped celebrating, so I'll give it to Gabe Wood, who is caught up with the number 20 of Justin McDuff.
McDuff comes home in the 2nd spot. Not what you wanted, Justin, but you ended up fighting. You were one of those drivers who stayed out that long. How'd you pull off that kind of fuel mileage?
Well, I'll be honest. I started saving from the minute we gridded, and then under every caution, I was shutting it off and clutching it, trying to save as much fuel as I could, because I knew it kind of had a green look to it, especially with the quality of the drivers we had in the field tonight.
Well, Justin, unfortunately, your run to the finish and maybe taking Jake Watson cut short by about 3 laps. Up here in the booth, we thought you had it because you had the faster car, at least you had the faster tires. But unfortunately taken away from you by 2 drivers who wrecked later in the pack. Did you think you could have caught him? Because we saw you drop back a little bit, but once you got the wheels back under you, you caught him by about a 10th a lap.
Yeah, I definitely had the better tires. I think he took 2 there on that last stop. But I mean, it would have been a moot point if I didn't get raced like a clown by the 15 before that. So that was a little disappointing. I was just glad that Jake raced me really clean, and I mean, honestly, I'm happy he won it because he raced me clean, and he was in the right spot at the right time and took advantage of the situation that was unfolding in front of him.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, a touchy subject. Kyle Barnes racing. What we saw very hard. There was even some disparity in the booth up here about who was really to blame for that. But you know, our opinion was a driver getting forced down to the curb. Really, no chance of really exiting that situation clean. I mean, in my opinion, you, Justin, kind of in the right there. I mean, you had really nowhere to go.
Right. I mean, it's just frustrating. I know I did get into him the one time, but I let him gather it, and then I got alongside him cleanly. I was at his left rear, and then he just turned across my nose 2nd and 3rd time. And honestly, I should have just finished him. I wish I would have, because it ended up costing me the win. But I mean, it was a great run tonight. Those guys were the class of the field all night, so one of those 2 probably deserved to win it anyways. We just had the right strategy, took advantage of it.
Justin, you end up coming home in 2nd. A good payday, and you do get the Hart Charger Award, I do believe. So who do you got to thank for your effort?
Well, first I want to thank league owner Al Smith Jr. He does a great job, and he puts up with a lot of crap. And he just keeps looking for ways to make things better, and that goes along with the whole admin and drivers council team. And my teammate AJ Hamill, he always seems to go the extra mile and trying to help me out, push me to be better and do better. So I owe a lot to him as far as the gains I've been able to make on track. And I'd like to thank Art's Barbershop and Art Hamill if he watches this, because he's on the hood this season. So we'll see what happens in the Pro Series.
All right, Justin, great finish tonight, and we're gonna get you out of here because now we've got Murdoch actually Coop is going to talk to maybe a driver or maybe the number 4 machine. We're going to have to wait and see.
Yeah, the 4 machine of Jake Watson doesn't look like he'll be here tonight to talk about his win. We'll go on down the roster and talk to third place finisher Kyle Barnes, who got the pole, had one of the fastest cars out there, but when it came to strategy, it looked like it wasn't going to play out. So, Kyle, tell us about your race a little bit.
First 100 laps we were class of the field. Thought we had a good strategy coming down early. So we had some guys that took 2. I think Jake took 2. And then a lot of other guys just stayed out, tried to stretch fuel. Overall, it just sucks, really. I mean, on Tuesday night, we beat these guys by about 6.5 seconds. Kicked their ass, and then we come in here to the late model nationals. Everybody's allowed 4 tires. It's not mandatory. We're all playing by the same rule book, but at the same time, it just really sucks because you don't really have to have the talent on the track. You just have to have the good strategy at the end of the race. And honestly, I think we were the fastest car all night long, and just got bit on strategy. And that's kind of what this format gave was an advantage to the ones who don't have the talent but can get out a calculator and figure things out.
Now, talking about the on-track racing in particular, with that last stint, about 30 show laps, of course, unhappy is definitely a tone I'd give it. But whenever you got contacted the first time, you gave plenty of room before the last or the second to last caution. But when it came down to that last restart, it was definitely an aggressive style of racing between you guys. Was there anything in particular that you were unhappy with?
No, I mean, I was just doing everything I had to do. I mean, he can call me a clown if he wants to. I heard Justin's interview, but that's fine. When you're untalented and you got to take 4 tires and, that's what gets you to the front. It's sad, but that's just the hand I was dealt. I had to stay out there. I had 75, 85 lap tires on compared to everybody else getting 4 tires there at the end. He gave me a tap. So as soon as he gave me that one tap, I wasn't letting him by. Either he was going to wreck me or, just throw me in the wall to get by me. But it is what it is. I'm glad Jake won it. He had a solid strategy coming in, get 2 tires. He ran me clean all night. Never had an issue with him. But some of these guys just lucked up on the tire strategy. Wasn't nothing to do with any talent out there on the racetrack tonight.
Well, Kyle, before we let you go, definitely, as always, we want to let you give your shout-out sponsors, anyone who makes it happen for you.
Yeah, no, thanks to Al. This was his first attempt at a big special event. He's done a great job overall trying to get the drivers in here. We really didn't have the driver count with the rules package that we had to make it effective, so that's why you've seen so many people saving. Also got to thank Jacob and Tanner. They ran with me. Jacob actually purchased my pass for tonight, so overall not a bad night. Just sucks that we got bit in the ass because of a tire change.
Well, there you have it, number 15 of Kyle Barnes. We're clearly unhappy, and we'll talk to you soon, possibly on a Wednesday night.
Yep, thank you.
Well, guys, it's definitely been quite the evening, and I'd say that interview just kind of sums it up between both sides of the story, and clearly unhappy, and on both sides. I mean, regardless of opinions, on track incidents, that's how it gets heated. And the funny thing is, the 2 guys who are heated about it didn't win the race.
Yeah, I think we can both agree here, guys, that fireworks went off and tempers flared here tonight at Martinsville, which is not unusual for this paperclip track. It happens quite often, so each driver able to voice their opinion, and like you mentioned, just racing deal and stuff happens sometimes, and sometimes people are unhappy with the way things ended. But all in all, like Barnes said, not a bad night of racing. Actually, a very, very interesting night of racing, and how that finish played out. So overall, great night at Martinsville.
And so then I'll throw the mic to you, Gabe, on your final thoughts. We just got a little bit of Chris's, and I actually really am curious to hear what you have to say, and just retrospect to the end of the race, because we had a very subtle race up until around 150 laps in, and then everything changed and it was quite different. But overall, Jake ran a really good, smart race, and like you said, and you called it, by the way, around lap 90, that these guys could be taking 2 tires, and that's what won the race. And I think if you had to be in the top of the pit box, you would have been the one winning the race.
Well, it was just a simple math thing, really. And I mean, you know, we heard Kyle Barnes, and I would completely understand that coming from the driver who was the class of the field. But unfortunately, if you don't think about, you know, the subtle things you can do during a race and try and capitalize on it, you get bit and you lose the race. Unfortunately, Barnes, you know, did not recognize that it took about maybe 10 seconds extra on pit road to change those left side tires. The 4 did, and he ended up getting beat. And, you know, you have the guys who finished second, you know, the 20 machine of McDuff. He also played a correct strategy, you know, was able to save fuel, run it. You know, you can run different strategies. Racing is not always about running side by side. It's about being smart and ends up beating the driver, you know, in front of you. And the 20 did that well, and the 4 did that well as well.
Well, definitely, I think a race for all of us to definitely reflect back on, and definitely because I think it's been a long time since we've had a heated exchange on the broadcast. I think I find it a little bit. I find it just, at least in my position, to just kind of watch and just observe. You know, that's typically what we're here to do. Watch, observe, and make comment on what happens. And I think, you know, we don't see a lot of this. And I think a lot of us were definitely stepping back a bit to realize that, you know, this probably happens a lot more. It's just a little bit typically kept in the garage, but definitely, you know, something I'd say that doesn't typically happen in the Upstate Racing League. We saw it actually a little bit at the end of the last full season, but, you know, definitely when you come to short tracks, you've got to expect it. And so we'll be seeing that. We'll be seeing this league a lot more here in the coming weeks. You know, we'll see the 2017-2018 Upstate Racing League White Knuckle Clothing Line Pro late models kick off in about 2 weeks, which will be right here on Thursday, same time as it was tonight. And I think that'll be a really cool deal to watch. And it was great fun tonight with you guys. And as we start to wrap up, we do want to thank all of our affiliates at LSRTV, and of course from LSRTV, you know, the guys up top, you know, Cisco Scarmuza, Evan Pasoko, Laura Lawson, DJ Beverly, and of course from you guys, Chris Murdoch, Gabe Wood. You know, I want to thank the entire crew tonight, and it was a great night of fun, and we expect to have great times like these more in the future. So from myself, Austin Coop, and the crew tonight, we do sign off tonight, and we will see you at the next track.